For tonight in Atlanta, Georgia. Investigative journalist and author of Down the Hill, Susan Hendricks, is with us. And from Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, criminal defense attorney and host of Defense Diaries, Bob Motta is with us as well. And in Pensacola, Florida, private investigator Lauren Vellucci. Hello to you all. Thank you so much for joining me. And I just want to give a little bit more context to that. Just before that, these lawyers had found out that there was an investigation going on. They knew the investigation was going on, but there had been some affidavits filed. The judge had some access to it. The attorneys hadn't. And she said, you know, they hadn't really been given a chance to look at it or contest it or do anything along that line. Bob, I want to start with you. As a practicing attorney, what are your thoughts about the position that these guys were put in and their response to?
I thought it was untenable. I thought that there was no due process under the law. I think that they were bum rushed out of the case, frankly. That is not how the law works in this country. If Judge Gull clearly had very strong feelings about certain things that had happened in this case, well, you have a hearing and you give them notice, and you allow them to prepare a defense and allow them to put on witnesses in order to have an evidentiary hearing, because I don't know how a judge makes any findings just from getting information from the state. It's not how it works in this country, Michael. It's just, you know, so Baldwin, he really was pretty calm when that was going down. And I've obviously read the transcript in total. Rosie was furious. And I mean, he laid it out. There's a lot of language in there when he goes pretty hard at her. Exactly what I'm saying with respect to the lack of due process in this matter. Because at the end of the day, as much as we all want justice for the girls, this stage of the justice finding is about Rick Allen. And his Sixth Amendment right has just been torched. I'm sorry, but it has, and no one's changing my mind about it.
Yeah, that's exactly what Rosie and Baldwin argue. The Sixth Amendment implications for Richard Allen are really just mind-boggling. Susan Hendricks, I want to go to you because this raises a lot of questions. There's been a couple of different things that raises questions. Some of the actions of the judge. I want to get your thoughts on this. I'm sure you read the transcript. I'm sure you're aware of what's been going on. I want to get your thoughts because if you would talk to the attorneys, they would say something else is going on here. Maybe some sort of conspiracy, something's going on. And unfortunately, these actions lead to that type of thinking. She would say it's all about the integrity of this trial, the integrity of the potential jurors, not poisoning those folks and some of the actions that the defense attorneys. Certainly, I wouldn't call them indefensible, but there were some issues. Your thoughts?
Yeah, while reading it, Michael, there were issues that I had in reading. And in terms of, it appeared that Judge Gull kept bringing up different phone conversations that they had off the record. So I think that this hearing, in hindsight, should have gone on as planned that day, obviously, as we look back and see the attorneys and they're saying, so these are only options. And then Fran Gull mentions a phone conversation. So I think that was the mistake. Was it too casual before this, prior to this? And was she forthright in terms of bringing up every conversation they had? So I think in hindsight, there were mistakes made in terms of what was on the record. And now that we see this transcript, but also reading through it, there were certain things that, Rosie brought up about the OJ case. He brought up Court TV and saying, I really haven't watched maybe back in the OJ case. And that got me thinking too, of course, the way the defense, the genius of that defense, everything was done inside of the courtroom, not prior to. I think this was the mistake in terms of the Franks hearing and everything else, and in violation, in my opinion, to the gag order. It was tried in the court of public opinion. You look on Reddit, YouTube, it's everywhere. Speculation, and it's because of what was allowed out there.
And you know what's interesting? I read that as well. And Lauren Vellucci, one of the points that Rosie made was that prior to this, there had been a number of leaks in this case by the state, by law enforcement. And so they, on some level, were trying to level the playing field. In essence, a gag order was put in place as a result of that, and then there were continued problems. But I still see issues with due process as far as they're concerned. They cite in there, in the motion by the civil attorneys representing Richard Allen, they say no court in Indiana has ever allowed a judge just to decide subjectively that she wanted to get rid of some attorneys from a case, so that's what she did. There is a process for this, no?
Oh, absolutely. They surprised us. And, given those new documents that were released by the defense stating basically unfair acts and politics, this doesn't look good. It's not a cute look for the judge, in all honesty. And she also did other things that, to me, I have issue with due process, like Bob was talking about, with the fact that he is in the Westville Correctional Facility. And he has been. And to me, that is unconstitutional at this point, because he is still an accused murderer. He has not been found as guilty as a jury of his peers. So I have an issue with a few things that she has done, but I do think this is going to be an issue. And it doesn't look well for all the allegations that the defense was making in this long, drawn out motion. So it doesn't look good.
Yeah, it doesn't. Lauren, I just want to double back on something you mentioned about him being in the Westville Correctional Facility. Tell people why that's an issue, because that's essentially a prison, not where normal folks who are awaiting trial would normally be.
Correct. So when you're awaiting trial, you are in jail. You are not in a prison setting. And he went directly there, I think, a month after he was charged with these murders. And he went there for safekeeping, is what the sheriff said. And it's a much harsher environment. He's there with child molesters, other murderers, and that's just not how the process works. It just isn't. I think we all want to get to the bottom of this, but the most important thing is that we put the right man behind bars for the rest of his life for this murder, and I have a lot of concerns.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, when you look at the way things are shaking out, Bob, you got to look at this and wonder. You got to say something's rotten in Delphi. I mean, there are too many things happening here that can really lead one to ask the question, is there something else going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I fight tooth and nail with myself not to slip into conspiracy theories. But when it's just one thing after another with respect to the timing, it's like every time something would happen in terms of a big move by the defense, within a couple of days, a major event like a leak happens. Like 2 days after the Franks memo hits, it's just the way that it's gone down, and this is where the judge lost control. And there's no way that I'm saying that I think that Judge Gull is complicit in this, but I think that she's gotten sucked up into the vortex of it in terms of her, just like when she made the statement that she had made findings, that she found them grossly negligent without the benefit of having a hearing. As an attorney, it made my skin crawl. It really did. How are you making findings of anything without having an evidentiary hearing, without giving the defense an opportunity to come in and put on a case?
And that was exactly their response, Bob. That's why they were so upset, especially Rosie. He was upset because he said, this is not how we do things. We should have an opportunity to respond to this. But again, this is the way it went down, and I have a couple more questions. We're going to have to take a break right now, folks, but coming up next, we take a look at some disturbing allegations.